Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to the I Am Salt Lake podcast, episode 82. My name is Chris Hollifield. Welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast. IamSaltLake.com is a website for the show. You can find out everything you need to know about the podcast. All the contact information's right there. You can stream all the previous episodes, download them, put them on your smartphone, your iPad, iPhone, whatever, to listen to them right there online at IamSaltLake.com. I got a great show for you guys today. My guest on today's episode is Barbara Gray. She's actually lives in Los Angeles now, currently does stand-up comedy there, but spent many of her years living and growing up here in beautiful Salt Lake City. So got a little bit different show for you guys today. I've known Barbara for quite a while. We met through Twitter, and I always told her, I said, hey, next time you're in Salt Lake City, I'd love to bring you on the show and have you share your story about living in Salt Lake, moving away, doing stand-up comedy, just about your life now. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying all the episodes that I'm bringing to you and listening to them and sharing them with your family and friends. I'm having a really great time doing this podcast and introducing you to people in the area doing really cool stuff. So anyways, without any more talking on my part, let's jump now into that conversation that I had with Barbara Gray. Why don't at the beginning, I just kind of introduce yourself. I know you live in LA now, but you're from Salt Lake City. You were born and raised here in Salt Lake, correct?
I was born in California, but I grew up here since I was, how old was I? I think like 8 or 9. Okay. So I feel like I always say I'm from Salt Lake. I don't say I'm, from
And
California.
when did you move from Salt Lake?
I moved in 2008. I was 25. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get introduced to stand-up comedy? Like when was the first time you did comedy? Like share that story a little bit.
Oh geez.
Right off the bat, the big.
No, I am. Well, I always obsessed with comedy, growing up. And part of the reason I moved to LA was just because I always saw like how much awesome comedy was happening there all the time, and I wanted to see it. Yeah. I'd like read lineups and be like, oh God, I could see all these amazing comics, like, Patton Oswalt, David Cross, like all these guys who were doing shows like every night. So I just always read about that. And then I decided to go, not just because of that, but that was part of it. And I also worked in film.
So comedy wasn't the reason why you moved to LA then?
Not to do it. A big part of it was just to be around it, as much as I could. Yeah. Because there's more of a scene here now in Salt Lake now than there was when I left. And,
really, just over the last few years, you really think that the Salt Lake City comedy scene has exploded a little bit?
Definitely. It's definitely expanded. I mean, it's still small, but there's a lot more people. Even this today, or when I've been back for this trip, I've seen like 2 times as many comics as I saw maybe like a year ago. So it's definitely growing. But yeah, I just moved out there because I also had like a film degree from the University of Utah, and I wanted to work in film. And obviously, that's the place you go. So I went there and I started taking like improv classes at the Upright Citizens Brigade like right away, and just kind of threw myself in. And then I skirted around doing stand-up. I was really scared. I just like went to open mics and kind of like watched forever. And then finally I did it, and it was like, oh, well, this is,
So did you do your first open mic in Salt Lake here?
I did an open mic in Salt Lake like years ago at the Wise Guys in West Valley. But
that wasn't your first one.
That was my first one, but okay. I don't count it really because it's like, I guess I did it, but it's not like it set off anything. I don't know. Yeah. It was the first time ever getting on stage and trying something, and I said some joke about like shaving an anchor into my pubic hair. I don't remember, some terrible joke. But I did a mic like years ago in Salt Lake, and then but I really count starting in LA,
The first time that you did it, did you know that you wanted to kind of continue on the path of comedy, like doing that, or did it take a few times?
No, it was pretty much instant. I did it in a small coffee shop on like Sunset Boulevard, right by where Meltdown Comics is, and there's like a big comedy show there now. And I just did it, and it was like it went pretty well. I think it went better than it's supposed to go in your first time. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a good fit. So
So growing up or like who were some of your early role models in comedy?
I really got obsessed with like weirder comedy with like Strangers with Candy, that show and stuff. You know, that was kind of like, I remember, this is a little bit older, but I remember like being in the dorms with my best friend at the U, and we just like stumbled upon it one night. And that's kind of where my obsession with like weirder stuff began. And, but you know, growing up, we would always listen to like Bill Cosby in the car and stuff like that on like road trips. And that was always a favorite. And,
always a classic.
Yeah, of course. And you know, I'm obsessed with Seinfeld and all that kind of like stuff that everyone is, but yeah.
So you didn't like grow up like at a young age listening, like super young, you know, 7, 8 years old, pulling out the vinyl records?
No, not really. I mean, my dad was always really funny. He was just kind of like a funny guy. So he was definitely an early influence, if you could call it that. But I don't really remember that kind of stuff. The earliest memory I have is mostly of like the Bill Cosby stuff when we were younger and just kind of like repeating like the, you know, Daddy's great, gives us chocolate cake. We'd always like say that back to each other. So that's probably my earliest kind of influence. But I wasn't consciously like into comedy until I got a little bit older. Even though it's kind of been around, but I didn't really delve into it.
Who are some of your, like, you mentioned a few comedians that you like. I mean, who are some of your biggest, like, role models, I guess, in the comedy scene now? Who do you like?
I mean, the typical.
Or is that kind of a tough question?
No, it is hard. Well, it's not hard when I think. It's so funny, like, when I do stuff like this and when I'm put on the spot, I'm like, you know, my brain just stops working. I mean, the obvious ones like Louis C.K., you know, his career is pretty, I would love to like make my own stuff like he does, you know, be in control of everything. That's the dream. Amy Poehler's like a huge, you know, she's probably my biggest role model. I love her, even though she doesn't really do stand up, but I love all of her character work and stuff like that. So, and just her, she was so great as a woman, like on, when they had the Upright Citizens Brigade show on TV, she can just play so many characters and she can play guys so well. And, you know, she's so well-rounded. I really love her. We really want to get her on. I have the show Lady to Lady or whatever, and we're like dying to get her on it so bad.
Yeah. And I want to talk about your podcast here in just a second. But, before we get into that, I mean, what's being a comedian? Like what's the most rewarding thing? Like what do you enjoy the most about doing it?
I think it's because the best thing is obviously getting a reaction out of people.
Getting a laugh.
Yeah, getting a laugh. Because I think that laughter's like, there's no pretense. Like, it just comes out of you. You know what I mean? You can't force it. It's such a natural thing that kind of happens, you know, whether you want it or not. It just, before you can even think about it, it just comes out, you know? And that's what I love. It's like just kind of connecting with people on this other level, you know, that I don't know, that just forces like this physical reaction out of them. I really love that. And I mean, just performing, you know, I realized I was wondering like recently, I was like, God, why are comedians such depressed like assholes? Like, I
really find that most are.
No, they are. They're just depressed people. And it's because nothing will ever beat that time on stage. Yeah. And like I'm always the happiest if I'm performing, like whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's longer, you know, like that will be the best part of my day, the best part of my week, whatever. So when the pinnacle of like all of, you know, everything you want to do is only 5 minutes a night or whatever, the rest of it, life doesn't like live up to it, you know? How
often do you get out to do stand up?
I mean, I do it pretty much every night.
Pretty much every night.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm taking like a little bit of a break right now to try and write some stuff, but it's really hard. Like, I haven't taken a break since I started doing it. So for like 5 years. It's
have you been able to make it like any kind of full-time career then or yet or
not
yet?
No, I have a day job and all that shit.
Like most comedians.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, it's hard. It's really hard to get paid for in LA, especially. I don't know why. It's just, you just do free shows all the time. There's no pay. Like, you'll get drink tickets, maybe. That's about it.
Yeah. Who are some, do you have any like memorable comedians that you've been able to open up for? Like,
I opened for Kyle Kinane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He actually opened for him in Salt Lake like a year ago.
Oh, you opened up for him?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I saw he was coming out and like we know each other and I was like, can I please open for you? Like, this is my hometown. I would love to do that. And he was like, yeah, sure. So that was really an honor. And I mean, he's definitely one of my favorite comics. He's incredible. And Yeah, that's probably the most memorable guy. And then, we got to hang out afterwards, and I was like such a nerd about it. I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to get to hang out with Kyle Kinane, but I had to like act like I didn't care. So dorky. Him and this guy, Bert Kreischer. I don't know if you know who he is.
Not familiar with him.
Yeah,
no.
he's kind of like a club guy, but he's really funny, really genius. And I've opened up for him a few times in California, and yeah, he's really great. So nobody huge yet. I'm still figuring out how that all works. I really don't know how a lot of shit.
How they get hooked up.
Yeah, I guess you have to just ask them, but
Yeah.
I'm not very good with it. I hate asking for stuff, and it's a little awkward. So
I could imagine. I
could imagine you're like, oh, can I please open up?
And it's also weird because I don't ever want to feel like I'm using someone, I just don't like that feeling. Like, I don't want them to think like, oh, like my career, I don't know. You have to, but I just don't like that feeling. So you kind of just have to keep going and hope that like good people see you and you stand out a little bit. But there's so many goddamn comedians.
Is it tough to be a stand-up comedian? I mean, to stick out a little bit, do you kind of need to have your own unique style?
Yeah, you do. I mean, definitely, because there's just so many people. Like I see so much comedy now that if you don't like have a unique perspective, I will just, no matter how good your jokes are, if you're just kind of, I mean, I really like people who talk about personal stuff, and obviously there's people who can be really good talking about generalizations or whatever, anything, but I kind of zone out if they're not like getting personal a lot of the time. So that's just a thing for me, maybe.
Do you think like the comedic abilities is something you're born with, or something you develop, or something you create over time?
That's a good question. It's really interesting because I have seen, now I've been doing it long enough that I've seen people get really a lot better who I don't think are naturals at all, but they've gotten better just because they put in so much time. They've gotten up so many nights a week or whatever. And it's changed my mind a little bit about like the natural, but then there's still the people you see who are naturals that it's like, you just can't deny how funny they are. There's who put in maybe a little bit less, and not like they all put in less work, but I have some friends who they're still even. Like the naturals have put in a little less work, but they're still just as funny as the people who are working their asses off,
Yeah.
So it kind of evens out, I guess.
What would you say the biggest difference from what you've noticed between the Salt Lake comedy scene and the LA comedy scene?
I mean, just sheer number of it.
Sheer
It's like,
numbers.
I don't know how many comics are in LA, but it is insane. Thousands. I don't know. I really don't know what the number is, but it's a lot. And there's also different crews. Like there's people I've never met before that have been doing it, and I'm like, what? Like, how have we never met? Because I mostly do like the alternative stuff. So there's like the club comics, and then there's like the road comics, and there's just a few different kind of groups of people. So the difference with that in Salt Lake is there is like a little bit of an alternative scene here.
Yeah.
So
less places probably to
there's just less stage time, but also like I think the comics here travel a little bit more and get paid. They do more road gigs probably than
have you traveled much? Or
I have a little bit. I did like a southern tour last year with some friends, and that was amazing. It was really fun. We just kind of like, we didn't like really profit, but we got back what we spent. But that was awesome, and I'm trying to do more of that stuff. It's hard because you end up just paying to travel. It's hard to like get paid back for what you do. So
do you have any like? Have you done any like? CDs or any of you like published?
There's
because I know there's like YouTube videos I've seen, obviously of yours.
There's I don't have an album myself. I want to start working on some. The hard thing is that working on like long sets. That's why you need to go on the road, because the top amount of time you get in LA is like 8 to 10 minutes.
Which probably feels like 8 to 10 hours when you're up there.
Well, it's weird because it did when I started, but like when you're up there, it goes by so quick. So
do you still get nervous when you get up there? I mean, honestly, or not quite.
Not
as
really.
Bad. But the first time, I'm sure you.
Oh,
were
of
just
course.
like shaking.
Yeah. I get nervous if I'm going to try something a little different or a little weird, but that's good. And like I like challenging myself because like I don't ever want it to get boring. Yeah. I do have one recording. It's on this awesome. There's a show called Holy Fuck that's in LA. That's like one of the best shows there, and they released like a compilation album a few months ago. So it's like a bunch of like big name comedians like TJ Miller and Kyle Kinane and all these guys, and then like people who are on kind of like my level. So
how can people get? I mean, is there a way to get that?
Yeah, they can go online and order it. They just look up Holy Fuck Free Comedy. That's what the album's called.
Just
so
Google that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I listened to it in the car and it was just like, it's just like short sets from a bunch of really great comics. So it's really fun. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. What advice, like somebody who wanted to get into comedy, was there any kind of advice?
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Nike style.
It seems like a lot of even beginning comedians start out on like Twitter and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What do you think of like the comedy scene on Twitter? I know you're part of it. I think that's even kind of how we connected.
Yeah,
in the
no,
beginning,
it is. That is cool. I do like the friends I made on it and stuff like that. I've definitely made some relationships I wouldn't have without it. I am a little like, for me, live performing is like where it's at.
But do you test your jokes at all on Twitter?
No, not really.
To see what the reaction, see how many stars you get?
It's not the same thing. It's so different from performing live. You can't like, for me at least, because I'm not like a one-liner I'm not like...
You're more of a storyteller.
Yeah, or I don't even know. It's not even that. I just like live performing. Like I can't really condense stuff into Twitter size, I guess. Yeah. So
that 140 characters.
And sometimes I come up with stuff, but like it's partly a laziness thing too. I just like don't like think. I just would rather get up on stage and like work it out than do it, than try to figure out how it works best on there.
So you don't write like a big script out. You just kind of get up and...
Yeah. At this point, like when I started, I mean, the first time I ever did it, I had every word memorized. It was just like, but now you kind of get up. Once you start getting better at it, like you just write on stage, so you have an idea, you get up and you kind of see how it goes, see what hits, and then just kind of take it from there. So I've definitely found that writing goes a lot faster now.
Have you ever been heckled? Have you ever been?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, oh, you fucking suck, or something like that.
I had a funny. I was in New York recently. I went to New York like in February for a few weeks to do some shows, and I have a lot of jokes about like weight because like LA is so fucked up about like how you look, and I go on some auditions, and a lot of them are just like husky fat girl and all this shit. So I'm always like kind of making.
They say that to you.
Well, they say that in the audition, like,
okay.
It's the description of the character is like that. So I have a lot of jokes about like that kind of stuff, how I got like cast in this thing for Fat Girl number 2 and like all this crap. I can't remember what I was saying. I was up there like saying like, well, you guys, I don't know, something like, do you guys want a skinny girl who never drinks? Or I don't remember what the joke was. Something about like, do you want a skinny girl or a fat girl or something? And this guy was like, skinny girl. This guy was just like start being like a real big dick to me about like my weight, like from the back. And and just like kept saying, basically like commenting, like calling me fat and stuff. And I just like went off on him. It was really fun, actually. I actually like it when people heckle because they're like kind of too polite in LA a lot.
Yeah, and then you can just run them over.
And it's like, I would rather have interaction and like, I obviously, it shouldn't happen all the time, but I don't mind when people speak up because it makes the show unique, and it's like, these aren't just my jokes over and over. Like something is happening here that you're never going to see again. So might as well explore it and see what happens, and like you have the power on stage. They have no power. So you find it pretty easy to kind of take them over if you need to.
Is your family pretty supportive of your doing stand up? Do they ever come out to any of your shows? Or,
yeah.
Or is that pretty tough to get up there?
My poor family.
Or to get up there and say some of the stuff?
Yeah, I've said some bad shit.
Well, no, yeah,
I feel so
watched,
terrible.
YouTube videos and stuff, and I'm just like, gosh, I couldn't imagine saying some of that stuff and having my mom in the crowd.
Yeah, it's really weird. I feel bad. They want me to like be a singer, like an old timey singer, So
like
they want
Patsy Cline.
Yeah, they want because my grandpa was like a big band musician,
really?
And so like they love all like that kind of style, like 40s music and stuff. And like I can sing too, and I've kind of sung a little bit, but they just like. That's her dream for me is just to be in some like old fashioned dress, like singing like nice, like mellow tunes and not talking about like fucking or whatever,
Well, were you raised in a pretty conservative family or?
They're liberal. I mean, they've always been supportive, they're great. But they just, that's what they like. They like that kind of stuff. So, they've always been supportive and like, they're very proud of me for doing it. But I think, in their head, they'd like to see me do something a little more wholesome for sure.
I think
I can't blame them.
Yeah. Most parents would.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned going to the U for film.
Yeah.
Do you do anything with that now? I mean, what do you do any kind of film production or?
Not as much. I worked a lot in production when I moved to LA. Like I did like PA stuff and all that crap. I really want to get back to it at some point. I just kind of got caught up in, doing all this other stuff. So I would like to make I always have ideas for like documentaries. So if I ever get money doing like stand up or doing something, I have a lot of ideas about movies I want to make at some point.
You're a pretty big documentary fan.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of documentaries. I love documentaries.
Yeah, they're the best.
I think that's the only reason I get Netflix, just because all the
right.
documentaries.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to make some of those eventually. So I'd love to get back to filmmaking. I'm not really good with the technological side of it. So that's kind of, it's hard because you have to have like a partner who knows that side. Like I can direct and I can like figure out a story from editing, but I gave up on trying to keep up with like cameras and all that stuff. It's just not for me. So
I actually have a question before I forget. My biggest, I actually grew up in Ventura. So I get down to LA quite a bit. How does anybody get anywhere on time down there? I mean,
they don't.
Honestly, I mean, the traffic is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, traffic in LA. No, it is. I mean, it's kind of assumed that you're late. Everyone just assumes that people will be late a lot of the time. Yeah. But once you get to know the city, you just know like how long it's going to take you. And I'm lucky I live in Silver Lake, which is like pretty central to where I need to be most of the time. Yeah. So I just,
You're just always late.
Yeah, you're always. I mean, I'm always late anyway, so I at least have an excuse with traffic or whatever.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like public transportation is actually.
Oh no, it's awful.
Down there, so
I mean, I don't take it, but
it seems like you need a car to get around.
Yeah, but I don't mind it. Like once you get used to driving, it's like it's just part of it. It's. I don't know. It's not that bad.
Not that bad.
It's, I guess.
You get used to it. A lot of road rage.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. Like I'm a very nice person, but as soon as I get in the car, like I'm just like, fuck you. Like I'm freaking out at everybody.
Awesome. Let's talk about your podcast that you Lady to Lady, right?
Yes.
Is the name of that.
Right.
How share that? I mean, you do that with a few other people. Who do you do that with?
Two other comics, Brandy Posey and Tess Barker.
Okay.
And they're great. We just kind of wanted to, I don't know, it started with a live show. We have like it's a talk show. And we started with that. And then we decided to do a podcast just to kind of like build the brand and explore it a little bit more. So we basically, the format is we like have a funny lady guest every time.
Like who have you had on the show?
On the live show, we've had bigger people. We had like Laura Keitlinger, who's really awesome. We had Retta from Parks and Recreation.
Oh, wow, yeah.
She was great. Oh gosh! Now, of course, my brain is blanking.
So like a live show, you'll do it in like a theater, like in a stand up.
We just got a spot at the UCB theater, which is like a big deal.
Wow. Yeah.
So we auditioned to get that, and we got that. So we're doing like a midnight show there right now, like once a month. Hopefully, we'll get a different slot because midnight's kind of rough. But yeah. So we do it at a theater. It's like it's a really crazy show. We basically call it like it's the pitch is like, oh, it's The View meets Pee-wee's Playhouse, because we do like round tables, like funny about like hot topics, but then we have like crazy characters showing up and like this whole sketch that kind of runs through the show. So it's really fun.
So you mentioned that you do it live once a month. I mean, you do more episodes than once a month come out.
Right. We do the live show once a month. The live show and the podcast are like a little bit separate. They're not quite the exact same. The podcast is once a week, comes out every Wednesday. So
and people, if you're listening, it's on iTunes, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's on iTunes. Check it out. You can go to ladytoladycomedy.com and see all
how
our
many
shit.
how many episodes have you done probably?
I think we've done how many? It's like 35 or 40 or something. Yeah, something like that. But it's really fun. We always have like a guy come on and play like a character like midway through the podcast too. So that's really fun. And it's just us, obviously we get into like kind of girly shit sometimes, but we just talk about whatever comes to our head pretty much. And we all have different personalities, the three of us, and it kind of like blends together.
And how did the three you guys all meet?
We just all met doing stand up.
One day you're hanging out, let's do a podcast.
Yeah. Well, I was outside a show and somebody said like lady, like, like girl to girl, like lady to lady. And I was like, oh, that's such a great idea for like we could do a stupid take on like The View, like make fun of that kind of, but actually be funny when we do it. And so that's kind of where it came from. And I just thought of those two because they're like different enough from me, but they're really funny. And, they're two of my best friends. So that helps.
A lot of comedians, obviously do podcasts. Do you think that helps with your comedy career?
I think so, because it gives you something to tell people to look at immediately. It's like a lot of people are always like, when can I see your next show? But they don't really care. They just kind of of want to ask about something. So like, that's a great thing to be like, this is a thing on the internet you can go to right now and look at and, get into. And we've had a lot of people become really big fans of it. So
yeah, it seems like there would probably be a ton of podcasts though in LA.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it's like
everyone's got one. I mean, I don't really like, I don't listen to a ton of them. So for me, it's just like, I don't know. I just show up and talk about my like relationship failures with my friends on a microphone every week.
So, I mean, do you listen to any podcasts?
No, not really.
Not really.
I don't listen to like any. I'm just like,
I find that with a lot of podcasters.
Yeah.
They just like, well,
I'm just like, I'm lazy about the weirdest shit. Like, I'm just like lazy about it. I don't know why. When I try to listen to them, I kind of zone out and I like can't pay attention. So yeah. I don't know what it is, but no, I don't listen to them.
You don't listen. So when you get to Salt Lake, I mean, what do you like about Salt Lake City? I mean, when you do come here. I always ask people that. I know you don't live here currently now, but I'm always curious.
But I'm always,
what do you like about Salt Lake, and what do you?
I try to come back as much as I can because it's so nice.
Is it less stressful here?
Of course. Well, it's just it's like being away from like your daily responsibility shit, Yeah. And of course my parents are here, so like I kind of devolve into my like, youngest child, spoiled child self around them. So
do you have any like favorite spots in Salt Lake, like any favorite like parks or I
love everything. Well, I love the Avs. I mean, just walking up here, I was like, oh man, I love just walking around, seeing all the awesome houses everywhere. And a
lot of history here.
Yeah, there's so much, and just
I'm not curious how often you do get here, so I apologize if you're like, oh, I don't have any like
no I do. I mean, there's staples of places that I've gone to since I was in high school. Like whenever I come back, I try to go like Lietz's Pizza. That's like my favorite.
Yeah.
We would always go there for like school dances and stuff, and it's still one of my favorite places. And
where'd you go to high school at? Here
at East High.
East High.
Yeah. So I love going there, and I love like Squatters, that's one of my favorite places to go.
Can you get Squatters beer down in LA?
I don't think so. I don't think they have it.
I'm just curious.
They might somewhere.
If you miss it at all. Yeah.
I mean,
Utah has good beer though.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Every time you come back here, do you notice new stuff just popping up?
Yeah, that is the weird thing. It's like there's always some new development somewhere or something. But it's also like, same old,
So being from Salt Lake, when you tell people, like saying California, hey, I'm Salt Lake City. What's the first thing they say?
Are you Mormon?
Are you Mormon?
Yeah.
Are you polygamist? Or
yeah.
something?
My favorite question I got recently was somebody said, I was like, oh, no, I grew up in Salt Lake. And he was like, oh, did everyone have trampolines? And that was like the best question I've ever heard. Because I was like, yeah, a lot of people did. And I was like, thank you for not asking me if I was Mormon. Like that's the best thing you could have asked me. Because yes, everyone had trampolines.
I never really thought about
it's
that. Wow. So what motivates you as a person to keep going, to keep creating comedy? Like what keeps you driven?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought about that because I'm a really driven person. I've always been since I was a kid. I've always just done a million things and always put myself out there.
But why?
Man, I don't know.
It's just something you do.
It's just something I do. It's something it's just a part of who I am. Like I've realized that the more I go along, as like other friends I have who are comics who like they're really funny, but they won't put themselves out there as much. And I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm worried about you because I don't think your career is really gonna, because it's like you have to work your ass off and like go for it. And I've just always done that.
Have you ever just wanted to throw the towel in? Just say fuck it. And
well, when I come back here a lot, like recently, I was having a very big like, maybe I'll just go back to Salt Lake and get married and pop out babies or whatever.
That'd be cool, right?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I want that actually. Eventually, I don't know. I do go through that a few times a year for sure, where it's like, God, what am I doing? Like, I'm never gonna make it. Why am I even trying this? But then. I don't know what else I would do. I mean, it makes me so happy, and I would feel like I'd be lost without it. So
yeah, I mean, where would you be if comedy would have never been introduced? Popping out babies, I guess here,
I guess so. I mean, I guess I'd probably still be trying to do more film stuff. That's what I do like about here. I mean, there's obviously there's a decent like film community, so I feel like if I was still here, trying to do stuff, I could probably be making my own films and stuff like that. I don't know where I'd be without comedy. I would probably be performing. I'd probably try to be like Broadway, doing Broadway stuff or something like that. Because I don't think I could exist without performing in some way, because that's just a big part of who I am. So
tell me something based off of everything that you've shared with us so far. Tell me something about yourself that people wouldn't expect out of Barbara Gray.
I think I'm a lot more shy than I might give off.
And I've discovered that with a lot of comedians, actually.
Yeah.
They people think they come across as stuck up or
right.
They're too good to talk to me, but
it's just a shyness. It really is. Because on stage, as soon as I get on stage, I'm kind of like a big personality, and I'm just like loud, and I'm there, and I'm like that with like my close friends and stuff. But with people I don't know, I get very shy, and even if somebody talks to me about my set afterwards, I feel like very sheepish and like weird. So I don't know. It's a weird. I guess I have a lot more of that in me than I realized.
Do you have any really bad guilty pleasures?
Oh, I mean everything.
Yeah, bad TV shows or music or The Secret. You were listening probably to Ace of Base before you came over.
Oh yeah, of course, obviously my pump up song. I listen to a lot. I don't listen to like good music. I'm not good about finding good music. I love like Rihanna and like Britney Spears and shit. I love like bad pop music, or I guess good pop music. TV. Man, I only watch good TV for the most part, but I do love like I like skip work as much as humanly possible, and I'll just like sit. I love QVC. It's the worst.
You just sit there and watch QVC. Do you ever buy anything from there?
Yes, I went through like a bad period of time where I was like
little porcelain bear figurines, or
I was buying makeup from QVC. I don't know why. I was just going through this weird phase where I was like sitting at home all the time watching it and buying shit. So I was convincing myself like, no, it's 3 payments, so then I can afford that.
Was it good makeup though?
Yeah, it's actually been really good. It worked out, but but yeah. It's weird. I always like have to do something too much. Like that's kind of what I always have to be like, drinking too much or eating too much or like smoking too much or, whatever too much. It's just, I'm just like, I don't know. I have that personality definitely where it's like, I can't feel like balanced ever. Like I always have to kind of be overdoing it in some way. So that is a guilty pleasure for sure. Cause I feel bad. I don't really feel great about it.
So besides film and comedy, I mean, what are some of your other hobbies and interests? What else do you like to, or does that pretty much consume all your time?
It's so sad. But yeah, like comedy's, God, it's like consumed my whole life so much, that it's weird to think that I don't really have a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, that's it. I love I really like hiking and stuff like that, and just kind of like, I wish I did more stuff outdoors. Like I wish I had more of that in me. I wish I had done it growing up in Salt Lake because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, is there places to hike in LA? I mean, the streets, right?
Yeah. And that's interesting too. Like I love walking around and just like listening to music and looking at all the weird shit that there is in that city. But I love doing that anywhere. I feel like you really find out a city if you walk around it, Yeah.
Do you get out much to, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of bands in Salt Lake, or not Salt Lake, in LA, I mean.
Totally. No, I don't get out to any of them.
Yeah.
I had one year where I went to like a ton of concerts, but they were all big. Like Prince came and he did like $25 tickets at some place for like a month. So I went to see him, and I saw like a bunch of like big acts that year, but
we went down to LA. Well, been down there recently, but the last time to see a band, Ryan Adams, played at the Walt Disney Amphitheater.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh man, talk about a great show. I mean, that just I don't know if you ever listen to Ryan Adams at all, but I think he lives in LA now, so you guys can hang out.
We'll hang out. The best show I've been to there was they have the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It's like right in the middle of Hollywood. And they'll show like movies there, and they do concerts there. And I saw the Flaming Lips there, and that was like the best concert of all time.
Yeah, the Flaming Lips are playing Twilight this year.
Oh yeah, I heard that. That's so cool.
$5.
Oh, go see it. That is the best show I've ever seen in my life, for sure.
There's a lot of Ludacris just got announced for
really?
$5. Belle and Sebastian, $5.
See, we don't have that. We don't have that kind of stuff. I wish.
Yeah. Now, are you doing the Salt Lake Comedy Festival? That's coming up in September, right?
Yeah, September.
So you're going to be performing there.
Yeah, Lady to Lady's going to be we're all coming. We're doing like a live podcast.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. It's going to be really fun. I'm excited.
That will be, I'll definitely have to come check
it out. I don't know when we are exactly yet, but it's probably going to be Thursday or Friday. So
yeah. Any other dates you care to mention? I'm not sure exactly when this will be going up, but I mean, are you doing any other Salt Lake stuff or that pretty much kind of
no, when I come out here, I usually do Tuesdays at the Complex.
Okay.
There's always a show then. So, I mean, just go check that out in general. There's a lot of really great comics that do that show.
Yeah.
And
any Salt Lake comics that you think that you want to give
oh, yeah.
That you think people need to check out or?
Levi Rounds. He's really great. Dean Weber, super funny. And, Ryan Holyoke. Those three are probably my favorite.
I'll have to track them down, get them on the show.
They're great. Yeah, get those guys. Levi especially. He's probably been doing it alongside of those guys, and he's like a great. He came to LA for a little bit, but he had a hard time getting off his feet with like money, which happens to just about everybody. So
really? Yeah.
He came back and like I think this is kind of like his spot. He's really good.
What is it? What does an apartment run in LA? Just out of curiosity,
I lucked out. My place is cheaper than most. But if you're gonna get like a place in like Silver Lake or something, it's like I don't know, $800 a month
for just like a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, that's like for like a small studio. If you're gonna share with somebody, you can probably get it cheaper.
Yeah. So, yeah. I've just always been curious. I've heard how much more expensive it is. I haven't really looked into it, but
it's not. I mean, to me, it's like you make more usually. It kind of evens out, But it's not as bad as people think. I don't think if you can find cheap places.
Anyways, how can people find out more about Barbara Gray? Your website. You're on Facebook. I mean.
I'm everywhere.
How can people share any of those? And I'll put those on the show notes as well, so people can find you.
Yeah, find me. My website is called myjokesareuphere.com. And just find me on Twitter at Babs Gray. And yeah, check out Lady to Lady comedy.com. I guess that's everything.
Yeah. Anything else you want to mention before we end here? I mean, I appreciate sitting down with you here and
thank you.
Getting the opportunity. I know we talked about it. Next time you come to Salt Lake, we got to sit down and talk.
I'm really glad I got to.
I got to get you on the show, and talk to you. And
I just want to say that, it's always, I don't know, I love Salt Lake and I am glad that you're doing this. I think it's really great to highlight it. And it's always great to come back.
If anyone's in LA, look you up and find you
definitely
down there,
find me out there, hit me up and I'll show you the fun parts.
California listeners,
Yeah. I always want when people come there, like when people come here that I know, I like want to show them the best parts of the city, like what makes a city, what I love about it. So if you want to know anything about LA and where to go, hit me up and,
And I might do that next time I'm down there.
Many thanks goes out to Barbara Gray for coming on the show, for coming on the podcast and sharing her story with the rest of the listeners and letting you into her life a little bit, and for sitting down with me while she had a few minutes here in town, visiting her family, visiting Salt Lake City. I thought it was a really good show, a little bit different, like I said, somebody who currently doesn't live here, but spent many of their years growing up and living here and now doing something else with their life outside of Salt Lake City. So I had a really great time with her. Again, all the links are on the show notes, iamsaltlake.com/episode 82. That way you can check out her website, watch her YouTube videos, just do a search for Barbara Gray Comedy. Really great stand-up comedian. Like she mentions in the episode, she will be here for the Salt Lake City Comedy Festival that I believe goes on, like mentioned, in September. She'll be there with her podcast. So I'm excited to check that out. Check out her podcast. Again, all the links are going to be on the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for your support of the show, for the iTunes reviews, for everything, for the emails. Got all that contact information, like I mentioned, at iamsaltlake.com. So drop me an email. Tell me what you think of the show. Voicemail is 385-202-5926. Love to hear from you. If you got any events that coming up, give me a call on the voicemail. Love to play those on a future episode of the podcast. I think that's going to about do it. Thank you for joining me for episode 82 of the podcast. Again, my name is Chris Hollifield. You guys have a great day, a good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is. We'll see you guys next time.